WRD could be comparable to a roller coaster, I would say. There were times where I really enjoyed this class, times I loved the writing and the assignments. I thought some of the things we were being taught were very useful and creative. There were also times, though, that I thought this class was awful and I hated it. Through the lessons we were taught, these hateful moments came from the sense that this stuff didn't matter. I felt some of the material was completely useless. The first essay was about a choice we had to make. It wasn't just about a choice, though. It was about the audiences we conveyed this choice to. This essay was an easy essay to begin with, though I felt the struggle when we really started to understand the assignment. For this essay, I learned a lot about the writing process and how to compose a piece of writing. I found this to be slightly helpful, yet I thought there could have been some improvement. At first, most of what I was being taught I had already learned. As the lessons progressed, I learned a lot about audience awareness. I began to understand and interpret the way someone speaks to an audience, more specifically me. I didn't just write a speech to give, I interpreted something that I had already done. I had to reflect on it, which made me much more involved and got me thinking about what I was doing. I knew some about audience awareness. I knew who I was speaking to and why, but I had never before looked into the different ways we talk to different people in our lives. This definitely helped me in my ability to be more aware of my audience and helped me later on in this class when I was writing my C3 speech. Here, I was able to take these lessons from audience awareness and apply them to myself now. This choice essay was also where we began to learn about thesis statements. Although I had some prior knowledge, I felt that the readings and PowerPoints aided in my understanding of what was expected for this class. This essay in this online class, I do like the way we had reflections for our revisions and how we had revisions due for assignments. This allowed me to refocus and dig back into my essay and find my errors and what I could fix. The second assignment we had to write for this class I enjoyed much more than the first. I love the idea that this essay was about. We began by learning how to interpret and analyze our surroundings. We learned how to take a space and be able to read it from a completely different perspective. This essay also taught me a lot about conducting an interview. You think you know what you're doing until you do it. I learned a lot about deciding the topic and choosing the appropriate interviewee. There was a lot of prior preparing for an interview, such as writing out planned questions, giving priority to questions, making goals for the interview, and setting up an appropriate interview. I expected to go into my interview by winging it, by just showing up and going up to someone and asking some questions. But in reality, there's so much more that goes into it. I found the reverse outline for this essay to be very useful. I learned a lot from it, and it helped me out tremendously with my organization. I hope to use this in the future with other writings. C3 assignment was a speech, and this speech was not fun. Although I knew the meaning behind why we had to do it, I hated it. I did, though, learn a lot about public speaking, through this assignment. I learned how to interpret who I would be speaking to in my writings and how this voice can connect to my audience. I also gained the knowledge of how I can change the way I speak to accommodate who I am talking to. I learned a lot about distractions and what all made a speech bad. Although there is the obvious about speeches, there is also the unobvious. Hand movement was sometimes seen as a good aid. A lot of cultures use a lot of their hands when speaking. But in this class, we learned that this was a distraction that was unnecessary. I thought that winging this speech was going to be easy, and I was wrong on so many levels. I learned that I had to practice this speech for it to be great. Adding notes helped a lot with my essay, and I learned how to take effective note card notes to give brief cues for help in moving forward with my speech. My biggest challenge was to stop saying It's the perfect filler for empty space, and I wanted to say it all the time. I had to adapt and challenge myself to accept the awkward silence, so to speak, and keep moving forward. The outline for this speech helped tremendously with the ability to focus on what needs to be said. I struggled a lot with not going on tangents and staying focused on the purpose of this speech. I felt after the outline I knew exactly what I was supposed to say, and I felt very confident in the contents of my speech.